today's video, we're at something of a meeting point between science and paranormal activity, between the known and the unknown. We're taking a closer look at some of the best examples of strange events that science either solves, or at least potentially solves, by offering a strong explanation for. First, to the legendary Green Children of Woolpit. The story goes that sometime during the 12th century, two children, a brother and a sister, were found in the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England. But in terms of appearance and behavior, these were no ordinary children. It's said that what most set them apart was the green color of their skin. Their general behavior was considered pretty odd as well, though. Most notably, the strange siblings refused to eat any food at all, electing to starve themselves for days rather than taking anything the villagers of Woolpit offered them. That was until they finally came across some green beans, which it said they hungrily ate raw. After some time, the other villagers finally convinced them to try other food, which eventually led to the children of Woolpit losing their green appearance. Finally, and significantly to the story, the sibling pair also didn't speak English when they first arrived. And so when the villagers eventually taught them the language, it's said that the girl could finally offer some kind of explanation. It's said that she said that her and her brother had come from a mysterious land called St. Martin, a seemingly underground place filled with more green-skinned people. So what's the verdict on this particular legend? There have been a few possible explanations put forward. The first and most obvious is that it's simply not true. Despite the popularity of the myth, there's precious little proof that the children of Woolpit ever really existed. While it's also been suggested that the Green Children legend is more likely an allegorical tale only. There have, however, been other more grounded theories as to how the story could be true, or at least partially true. One of the more popular reasonings for the language barrier is that the children may have been Flemish, as many Flemish people did migrate to the east of England from mainland Europe during that period. It could also account for the unusual clothing that the children were said to have worn. The green skin is a little more difficult to solve, although some argue that the color might have been simply the result of a shared dietary deficiency known at the time as green sickness. There aren't any seriously acknowledged answers regarding the children's claim that they came from an underground land, however. Today's second supposedly paranormal event keeps us in Britain, but this time for the case of the woman whose life was reportedly saved by an unfamiliar voice in her head. According to the story, recounted by amongst others the publishing and media company Ripley's, a previously healthy woman had been reading alone at home in 1984 when she heard a voice inside her head. The voice implored her not to be afraid, before revealing that it and a friend had previously worked at a children's hospital, and that it, the voice, would like to help her, the woman. Understandably, it was all quite confusing and frightening for the woman, who promptly left to go on vacation, which is when she reportedly heard the voice again. This time it's said that the voice gave her the address of another hospital where she should go to get a brain scan, which she did. The results came back, and only then did the woman learn that she had a tumor. The voice had essentially guided her to precisely what she needed most of all: urgent medical attention. To this day, there are no solid explanations for how this event could have occurred. But the best proposal so far, other than the outright paranormal possibility that the woman really did hear helpful voices, is that what she actually experienced was directly linked to the tumor itself. It's just that she translated those feelings into a voice that just so happens to understand the situation. Kind of like extreme intuition. In any case, the doctors were able to remove the brain tumor as a result, and the woman experienced a full recovery. Our third example today doesn't concern any specific supposedly paranormal entity or event, but rather a location. We're heading to Gold Hill in the state of Oregon, and to the mysterious area known as the Oregon Vortex. This place is famous for its bizarre and seemingly impossible properties. The standard laws of physics don't appear to apply here, where visitors have seen such seeming miracles as water flowing upward and their companions appearing to shrink before their very eyes. It's said, too, that Native Americans have even named the area Forbidden Ground, due to the strange happenings that have occurred there throughout history, including the fact that horses reportedly refuse to ever go anywhere near it. Again, while there's no standout scientific consensus as to how the Oregon Vortex really works, there have been some theories proposed. The Scottish geologist John Litster, for example, was once the owner of the land containing the vortex for some 40 years in the early to mid-20th century, during which time he performed various experiments. Lister eventually concluded that there was some kind of paranormal force at play to cause the abnormal phenomena, while a host of others, including the famed magician James Randi, have theorized that the seeming strangeness of the vortex is more simply the result of various optical illusions. And for our final item, it's more a paranormal category rather than an isolated event: near-death experiences. A near-death experience, or NDE, is perhaps a surprisingly common event where individuals who narrowly escape death report variously intriguing circumstances unfolding as they lay dying. Whether it's a bright light, an out-of-body experience, an impossible vision, a reunion with loved ones, or anything else, accounts of these experiences often defy our understanding of life and consciousness. The fact that there are so many similar accounts, then, poses something of a problem for science to solve. And to some degree, science does have some solutions to offer, with a lot of ongoing research into NDEs. Perhaps the most often cited explanation is that the lack of oxygen in a dying brain can cause hallucinations, much like many of the experiences that are reported. With death fast approaching, it's a stressful and unique time inside our brains, which some scientists theorize could lead to various attempts to make sense of it. And the result of this is an NDE. The fact that humans might draw on similar cognitive connections at this time too, such as the remembering of loved ones, is perhaps to be expected. The fact that many reported NDEs include the patient hearing things arguably makes sense too, as this could be a last bid by the brain to gather more information before death arrives. Others simply suggest that near-death experiences are the best proof that we have that our understanding of the brain, consciousness, and how the two tie together is incomplete. An out-of-body experience like an NDE would seemingly suggest that our consciousness can exist apart from our brains, which, if found to be true, would represent one of the greatest and most significant scientific breakthroughs in modern history. Of course, there's still so much more work to be done before science can provide a conclusive answer. But the sheer frequency of NDEs now means that these are being treated less and less like a paranormal event and more like a testable aspect of the physical world. In general, as demonstrated by these 4 examples, there's still a vast amount that we don't understand about life in the universe. Science has certainly made terrific strides in the last couple centuries toward figuring out how everything works, but there are still mysteries and inconsistencies out there. Whether it's a specific legend, like the Children of Woolpit, a specific case, like that of the voice that told the woman of her brain tumor, a location, like the Oregon Vortex, or an entire category like near-death experiences. We have some of the answers, but perhaps not all of them. Nevertheless, those are 4 bizarre paranormal events, at least partly backed up by science.